Okay, I'd like to call the special meeting. I do have to say it's a budget meeting, a special budget meeting for the White Lake Library Board of Trustees on October 9th at 6:51 p.m. Okay, and we need to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I got switched. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and then Karen, would you do the roll call? President Jen Churchill. Here. Treasurer Gwen Newton. Here. Vice President Rich.
Present here.
Trustee Eric Shotwell.
Here.
And Mary Francis, myself, I'm here as well. And Karen's excused.
And Karen's absent excused, correct,
And Amy and April
are here as well.
Yeah, you're good. All right, so we're not like approving the agenda or anything like that, like a regular meeting. So April, I'll just give it to you to present the, oh wait, yes, it does say approval of agenda. Okay, sorry.
I move to approve the agenda as presented. Seconded.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So there's 4 votes. Okay, we have no public. So we have no public comments. And April, I'm going to give it to you to review the preliminary budget.
Great, thank you very much. So I hope you did have an opportunity to review what I have sent you. Let's go right into revenue. Property taxes will be coming in. You can see what the actual amount came out to, and so I just did a quick little, a small $11.
Yeah,
For that,
so and that is with the heavy deduction, but
Yes.
with the increase in value,
correct,
it came out to a net of a little more than last year. Okay,
you are correct.
I just want to make sure it was all in there.
Yeah. And as you can see, historically, we usually get a little bit more than what they say. So we'll see how that goes. Federal grants, again, just keeping that where it is, although I am happy to report that we did receive the ECF, which is the Connectivity Fund federal granting for our hotspots, over $5,200.
Oh,
That is given directly, you can see it on the T-Mobile invoice there. That's given directly to T-Mobile, so.
Okay.
That was good news.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't look like 2025, but hey.
Okay, so but for the 2024 actual, it doesn't flow to us. It's
It
really,
goes directly to T-Mobile,
so it eliminates the expense so
Right.
that it.
probably till next March. If we tally it,
Mhm.
Okay.
you'll see on the T-Mobile bill there. Okay, state grants, so this year, 2024, we received 300, that was just slightly over, but I'm still kind of keeping that low. State aid, we're staying in that range. I said 29 before, we hit 31. We kind of seem to be hitting in the 31,000 range, so I just tapped it up to 30. Penal fines, again, that's all seems to be in a relative range, so just staying there.
Okay.
Copy of tax revenue, most of these I didn't put too much of a change on just because it's a range and we'll see what happens. I'd rather go on a lighter end, a lesser end, than on a heavier end and not have it. Okay, so interest, you'll see that, and I do want to give you an updated number on that one. As of today, on the interest, we're at $55,234.34.
Fabulous.
Um,
Okay.
if,
But, go ahead. I'll say my butt after you.
in looking what's coming in,
Extra early.
for the rest of the year, it's gonna put you, around 70, maybe a little bit below 70. So by splitting the baby, I put it at 50. I also did some calculations on that. And on your history here. So if you, what you have coming in 2025, just off the cuff, from what we have for February and April of 2025, you have around 15,000, okay? If you know rates are going to go down a little bit, if you invested your November and your 2 Decembers at 3.5% in a 12-month, that would bring you in close to 19,000. That gives you 33. I don't think it's unreasonable that you could gain another 20,000. Historically, over the last couple of years, you've been investing in around a dozen CDs, which is close to around 1.3 to 1.5 million. So I just don't think it's unreasonable to think that you would gain another 20,000 on top of that, even with lighter rates. Thoughts?
My thought was, before you said that it was too high. Because they had that unexpected rate drop. And I know that rates dropped about half of what they were. Do we think they're gonna go any lower? Or-
So if they go down to like 2.5 instead of
I don't know
estimating
that
at
the
3.5.
rate-
That's not what I saw today. When I was looking at what the Federal Reserve would do, it was saying by the end of 2025, it
Right.
would get down. to
They are
maybe
saying,
three.
and because treasury yields are still really high. And the CDs are somewhat based on treasury yield as well as the federal interest rate. So they are saying that they could go under 3 by the end of 2025, but we'll have, but we're investing in 2025.
Yeah.
We have a lot coming due in the next few months. So,
And
but,
that's why you
but
think it's
interest
gonna
rates
be
have
around
dropped.
70 For the end of the year?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
With your tax money coming in December, and historically you have taken some of that and put it in at that time period. If you put that in a year, that's even above your 5 already.
and we put and I think last year we put it in for like, I think we did one for 3 months and one
Did a
for,
12-month, a 13-month.
and I thought we did a couple shorter ones to make sure.
sure.
Okay, and we'll probably do that again.
So that
Just-
was my reasoning.
Okay,
on that.
all right, and I agree with that. Asked her about it. Because,
okay.
because I was looking at rates in the last,
I've gone over this a few times, and I mean, look.
Yeah.
This is all an estimate. I mean, it can, the bottom can, of course, the bottom can fall out, but.
and I'm sure you have other places that if we didn't make that number and we were only at like $30,000, there's other places that you can not have use expenses. Okay,
and even in public donations with the tree going in, I still only put us $1,000 above what. We said for this year, and we received. Double that
okay,
in public donations. So it's potential that we could receive more.
when is the tree gonna be available for people to,
My goal was before the end of the year.
okay, fabulous,
So, Now,
fabulous,
granted, some of that will most likely come in 2024 because of tax purposes. We know that
Mhm.
people like to donate at that time, but
Okay.
you're still looking at next year for that as well, so.
okay,
And we would do some sort of campaign. Okay, Friends donation, they have guaranteed us 45,000.
45,000?
Yes.
Wow.
Okay.
And then there's, not requesting any fund balance.
Mhm.
Any questions on revenue?
Yeah, I'll share the same concern that the interest rates
Let me take one.
could make a hit here,
Mhm.
but
Long time adjustment. I'm s-
yeah, I'm just saying that I do think the interest rate ride is gonna be feels like it's taking a conservative view of it, it feels likely that it'll not hit that much of interest. But,
What do you mean? You don't think that we'll hit the 50?
right, that's what I'm saying.
Well. So we have three CDs that are gonna expire by the end of the year, okay?
Mhm.
So unless it drops another full percent, right now, we can get CDs at, depending on the bank, between 3.5 and like 4.25. Okay,
Mhm.
so those, if we renew those again for another year, we'll have that percentage, right?
Mhm.
But it's
So-
just those three.
It's just those
Everything we
three.
invest next year isn't gonna come due for another year, so anything we invest next year doesn't count in 2025 revenue. If we go to the
If we,
ladder.
if
you were
we,
talking
if we
about
do,
coming
if we
here,
do if we do, if we do less than a year, they will, like the last two we just did, we did it 7 months.
Yeah, but Joe's ladder's a year.
I know
But
Joe's
we're
ladder's a
gonna-
year, but the interest rates were so
We're gonna
good
get
on the
better
last
rates.
two that we just did. We did them at 7 months. So we have two others that will come in. We just did one last month and it will come in, I think, in April, and we did one the month before. That will come in March.
Yeah,
And we did those specifically, we decided we would do whatever was the greatest interest rate, whether it was 7 months or 12 or 13 months, and we chose the higher interest rate.
I understand. I'm just saying. We'll hope that they have shorter term
Mhm.
instruments. Because if they don't, and we go with years, it'll be
Mhm.
2026 before we see that money.
Mhm.
Right. Mhm. Because we are gonna see all that interest rate, well, we'll see interest. If we go 12 months on these three that come up. We're gonna see
We'll
that
see them at
interest,
the back end of next year.
we'll see it at the
Yeah.
back end of next year, like right now, we're at what? 40 something, and we have three that are coming due, so we think that we're gonna have like $23,000 more in interest before the end of the year.
And that's where the 70 came.
Right.
Correct.
So, because I hesitated too, that I thought that was sort of high. And how much interest that we might make next year, depending on that.
Yeah, I mean.
But April explained it to me, and it makes sense.
I'm not saying it seems to me a little aggressive for what we think is gonna happen, but it's not, out of the ballpark.
So I think a lot of the board has expressed their concern about 50,000 in interest.
Yeah.
I'm just letting you all talk.
Yep.
Tell me what you want to do.
We had 40 this year as the
We targeted 20 and
20.
right now we have 48.
Yeah.
And we have about,
14.
and we have another about 23 that's gonna come
Mhm.
due before the end of the year.
So you're closer to it. What are you comfortable with 50?
I mean, my concern, if I look at it this way, figure, okay, the last 2 years, we were at 49,000, 48,000,
Right.
and yet we're expecting that the interest is gonna be less in general coming forward. Why would we forecast an increase?
Because we're not getting 48, we're getting 70 this year.
Oh, did I miss this somewhere?
Yeah, so.
Yeah, because
50
that
the
actually,
50 is, I mean,
that's
news
from
to me.
September.
So-
Okay,
And we
through
have
September.
three more,
Gotcha.
we have three more coming
Okay,
due.
so in that case, it's not
We're
really an
going from
increase.
70
Right.
down to 50.
Got it.
So then if you're basing it on this year's numbers, it is
It is less.
an estimated.
It is a $20,000 estimate less. It is a
I forgot we were
decrease.
looking at just the third quarter there,
Yes,
so.
and if it looks like we're not gonna make those numbers, we can always do an adjustment.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I feel like they're within the margin of error, like just looking at it from a thumbnail view,
Mhm.
you know, that an adjustment would be okay if we had to make that,
Mhm.
and yet it's not out of the ballpark. Give it 70 then.
I mean, I'd feel better with 40, but if we wanna, as a group, go with 50. There's enough in the fund balance.
Well, but April can also make adjustments to the rest of the budget
the
without
rest of the
using,
year.
without using fund balance.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, as we go further into the year, I can see what's, what we're gonna use, what we're not.
Mhm.
As you get lower, as we get to the bottom of the budget, you're gonna see some areas that I put in. As I said at finance committee, which and I'll tell the rest of the board is that. It was just really interesting how this budget came together because like it's top to bottom. I'll start at the revenue, go through. And by the time I literally got to the bottom. The last numbers fit the last three funds perfectly. I said to finance committee, I'm like, how does that happen? John, what are you doing?
yeah.
Okay, so. And we can circle back to this later, if you want to, I mean, it's up to you. But, all right, are we ready to move on to salaries?
Mhm.
Okay, so, before I go into salaries, were there any questions about, I mean, I'm hoping you read through the budget narrative.
Before we go back to salaries, I don't mean to jump back in there. There were two questions that I had that I was just thinking about in more detail. If you don't mind me jumping back. So federal grants, are we anticipating any federal grants or pursuing them?
Like I said, we did just get the ECF connectivity one, as they come up, yeah. There aren't too many that come up, so we rely more on state and local,
Right.
more like, and also sponsorships.
I mean, I know it's a small amount that we're looking at in there. I'm just wondering if we're not anticipating any specifically, or if we're not specifically pursuing a new one, why we'd have that in there, but
As a just in case sometimes, like I said, sometimes it comes up, sometimes it doesn't.
I remember we talked, okay, so that answers that one. As far as the room booking of the 1,500, we're promoting that more now, right?
Yep.
Okay, I thought we were, so, okay, that answers that question. I don't have any more questions then. Thanks.
Okay, so I gave you a budget narrative as I do each year, so I hope you had a chance to look over that for the staffing. I went over about 6 different options for staffing. And obviously the one that I'm presenting is the one that I'm recommending. We've had for 2 consecutive years, you've been very generous to provide a 4% raise. I am suggesting a 3% raise this year. I do think that's fair considering the increase that keeps going on in society. It is needed. And just breaking down the departments, looking at reference and circulation. For reference, we have tried in the past to separate the we have our assistant directors currently also head of adult. And we have tried to look at ways, I brought forth ways over the past couple of years to, institute that position. It has just proved consistently fiscally difficult. In looking at this and combining it and thinking about my past experiences and the positions that I have held. Combining the tasks and duties associated with that head of adult position and our current head of youth and teen position and kind of putting them together into one position. called Head of Information Services. This would improve staff assignments and operations, and that is one of our strategic plan goals. Having done that position myself and in a past lifetime, I'm very well familiar with it and what it entails and what is needed. And I can tell you that it is perfect for a building and a staff of this size. The reference of staff of this size does not need 2 department heads. And this frees up my assistant director to fulfill that role more completely and provides me also and the assistant director with improved balance of duties and tasks. So it's helping my workload, it is giving experience and a better driven task for what would be the new head of information services. And so that's why I'm asking for that. That is only a $1,600 ask, and so that's another reason why I'm asking for it. Circulation department, they are a stretched thin staff due to increasing material processing and circulation and drive-up window use. For them, I am asking to, and I looked at several different iterations of the circulation staffing, but this is the one I think is going to give them the most hours available. So I'm asking to add a part-time 20-hour-a-week circ clerk for them. And this will help with all of that. And then lastly, with the hopeful introduction of the meeting rooms and the rentals that we're hoping to start to get, I have budgeted 48 overtime hours for the facility specialist, and that number there for that one, that just over 1,600 for that. That is again, that's a just in case. Okay, so oftentimes what could occur is that, as an example, we just hosted and had the Friends for the Murder Mystery Dinner. And I asked my facilities specialist to work, if he could work Saturday and take a different day off. And that worked for him. So it could be a situation where he says that he would rather take a different day off. And if we can accommodate that, great. But I want to have that time available for him if that's not the case. So with the total, adding the 120-hour part-time circ clerk is just over 16,000. So you'll see the total for salaries and wages as 861. Questions can I field? What can I field?
I have a question about the very first part about the raise. I know 4% sounds like a generous raise, but if you look at the CPI for the last 3 years, in 2022, it was 8% increase. In 2023, it was a 4.1% increase. And in 2024, it's been a 3% increase, but we've all talked about how inflation's gone up in general. So I don't know whether that number will hold for the year. That's a 15.8 compounded CPI for 3 years. And if you look at it from the standpoint of the 4%, 4%, and 3%, sorry, I'm doing the math on it. That's 11.4%. That means people have lost 4.4% of the, assuming salaries remain the same or in line with that based on those increases. They've lost 4.4% in real value over
So
3
is
years.
The rest of the country, our wages are in line with the DLSRT.
DLSRT.
DSL.
Was I close?
DSLR2.
It shows that we're on pace with the other libraries in the region.
Okay.
And so we've been using the last couple of years to get to that position. And I don't think it's our job to meet inflation for the country because,
Right, no, I
we
get
don't
that.
have that kind of money. So if we do it, I hear what you're saying, and it would be great if we could give more money, but
I mean, we have been doing, if you look at 2023 to 2024, I can't see the 2022 number,
Mhm.
but we did have an increase in revenue during that time period.
We did, but that increase in revenue was when we went to the public and asked for that new millage, we didn't, it was not intended for salaries.
It was for
And
program
we
trade
ended up using, and it was for definitely, we presented it as materials and we still used quite a bit of it for salaries. And so one of the things that I think the board has been asked, we've asked April over and over again, is to make sure that our budget for our personnel stays under 60%. 60% of the maximum. And if you see this document here, we're at, with this proposal, we're at 58.2%. And so
That makes
obviously, we want to be competitive and we want to pay the people, at competitive salary. One of, there's a couple of things too that we have an advantage that we don't see in some other libraries. One of those is that for every full-time librarian or every full-time employee here, we put 10% into a 401k for them that they do not have to match.
Right.
The other thing is we have more than average holidays. So, so I mean, there's a give and take. So when we looked at this, we thought, is there going to be a 4% increase in salaries again? I know before this board, those salary increases didn't happen like that all the time.
Sure.
And so April had recommended 3% this year, and that's what we decided that we would go with.
Okay.
Let me give you the number.
The other thing is, we had, in the finance committee anyway, we had talked about getting back to a portion of the raises to be merit-based. Maybe not this year, but moving forward, for that to potentially be something, because we've gotten away from that. I would say it's been, actually, 8-10 years since we did merit-based, because Larry didn't want to do merit-based, he just wanted to.
Yeah, we did it really up until the time we started the library project, which maybe
Yeah.
2018, 6 years.
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah, so it's been a while since we did merit-based, but it would be nice to have a portion, like I'm fine with splitting it, that a portion of everybody gets some kind of cost of living.
Right.
As expected increase, and that maybe we save a small amount of that for merit-based for April to distribute as she sees fit, as people, rise to the
Right.
top, take on
Right.
something more, that kind of stuff.
Well, if you can build in some metrics as far as either saving money or bringing in more revenue.
Yeah.
You could incentivize that with a merit-based increase,
Yeah.
as opposed to everybody just doing exactly what their job duties said that they are.
Yeah,
So,
so it'd be nice to get to that 2026. But we thought that trying to do that this year, it's gonna be a big.
yeah, that's a big change.
Mhm.
And a 4%, just, a 4% would bring it to, and just rounding it up, 869.
869, what's the,
What's the rate?
Right now, it's
861.
861. A 4% would make it 869.
Uh,
So it's 8,000.
And that would get us even closer to that 60%.
Yeah.
right. I was just thinking in terms of, not just in terms of the real numbers, but also, do we have any statistics on turnover for staff this year versus prior years? Do you keep metrics on that at all?
I've had recently I had two cert clerks retire, or well, one got more hours at another library, the other one retired. Library personnel wise, librarian wise, not so much.
Okay.
Cert clerk wise, that's more where you see it more in cert,
Sure.
so. Four?
Okay.
I would say 2 to 3 years ago, we had people turning over quicker
Mhm.
than we do now. I don't
Yeah.
recall you talking about it so much at the board meetings.
Yeah,
That we needed a new clerk, that they got more hours someplace else, or
Right.
they got more pay someplace else, so
yeah,
I do think that
It's been
our
better.
salaries and stuff are getting more in
Yeah.
line.
For sure. It's been
Yeah,
better.
I mean, I think if we have metrics on that in the future to be able to tell whether or not we're leaking from the standpoint of
Mhm.
personnel,
Yeah.
that might be something to consider. So I'm satisfied with those answers. That helps me fill in the gaps. So. And I agree that 58.2 is a good number to keep at if the budget for the target is 60% or less. So, okay,
So employee benefit expense, that is that is our next one. That's just flat out, it went up 16%. And so that's not much that can be answered for that. We do have varying, we offer a Southeast Michigan Partnerships HMO, which is better than a traditional HMO. And then we offer, we have the. It's not a big deal. I want to say POS, but my brain is leaving me, but so we do offer them multiple options. So there's a lower cost one, which a lot of staff do take advantage of. And then we have the other one that some staff take advantage of, so. But. No way around that one. Questions on it? Workers' compensation, again, that went down. We have. It's done pretty well. So I don't have much more to say about personnel. Any other questions on personnel?
So everybody's good about creating this new position, this IS position.
I like it.
Yeah, and we talked about it quite a bit in finance,
Mhm.
before, April put this out. Eric brings up a good point. I'm hoping that with the change, that there's an opportunity to have, either Amy or our new IS, director to really work on more grants. Because we really aren't bringing grants in, and that's something that this board really wanted to see happen. I don't know the status of the grant that you and Emily were working on. Oh, okay,
They
thanks.
cut the number of grants they
Okay,
did, a couple big ones and.
yeah, it'd be nice to see us pursue as many as possible, see what we can come up with.
It also, it also takes time, which is
It does.
money.
I'm also looking on sponsorships. I really want to get to sponsorship, and that's part of the reason why I gave you in the coffee talk, is that to really try to push businesses.
Mhm.
That's why we got the Vibe one this year, but I really want them to, I've got a whole thing I want to start to write up and
Okay,
see if I can
great.
start to pursue with businesses. That's part of the reason I like going to these coffees.
Mhm.
That's why I wrote that out, is because I
Okay,
really
great.
want them to understand what they can get. Okay, so you'll also see on the budget, you'll see where I've written on the right hand side, increase, decrease, no change. It's just a quick way for you to see what there is. So off supplies, pretty plain and simple. No change off supplies.
So I have a quick, but
Yeah.
in personnel, so you have an increase in wages, but there's no increase in payroll tax?
Yeah, if you look at the staff, on the, get to that one. The payroll calculations.
I just thought we would pay more in payroll tax since we're paying,
Yeah,
More
it still
salaries.
only comes to 65,842
okay,
at 7.65%. So
Is
I
that,
haven't seemed to go over.
we're currently at 40, when that's for three quarters. So we're going to go over 60, but less than. So we're gonna be right up, say 61, 62. And so that might be the difference. That if we're. Yeah, so there would be room in that, is what, from the 66 from last year. Looks like we're probably gonna spend, but underspend payroll tax there. So maybe the calculation was. Included something else. Last year, that maybe that calculation was off.
It could be. Guess you'd have to multiply it though by what. We did it off of what we actually spent versus, yeah,
Yeah, because looking at 23, that we had. We were about 30,000 less in. In salary. Expense and about 3,000 less in payroll tax.
If we multiply the number out based upon the percentage that's 6207, that percentage that's there. And figured the number of weeks of pay. And divided it out based on what we've paid so far, does it add up to 66 or does it come in shy of it?
So it's 65 something.
See what I'm asking? Does it come in at 65 or does it come in? So you got 40 right now, based upon the number of weeks that we've got, so you can average that out and have the law of averages would say that it's a certain amount for every week that you pay, right? Talking about payroll tax, right?
right.
So just want to make sure I'm looking at the right numbers. So if you said, okay, so that's 4964, how many weeks of pay have we paid for the year and how many are remaining? And then see if it matches to 66,000.
I don't think it will though, because we've been understaffed this year too.
Okay.
Because we made that change from, we were supposed to have a part-time person in preference. And then we weren't able to get someone, so we
Right.
switched her over to full-time.
Okay,
So we missed out on that for a long time. And that was just one.
Okay.
And then you also have sometimes cert clerks don't always, if they take a vacation, they don't
Right.
have the time, then they don't use it. So there's a lot of, we've also been down a page.
Hmm.
So it's gonna be a little less for.
okay,
Okay.
salary. And that kind of stuff happens each year,
Mhm.
so,
And then the change in maintenance too.
correct. Yeah.
so well, I guess my point is, even with a little bit of additional cost for salaries. We still should be below the 66 or at the 66 anyway. Or at least close to
Well,
it.
just, yeah, and like I said, in looking at the staff spreadsheet I gave you, you can see the calculation for yourself, what it's based off of. What it calculates from. It calculates from the projected annual wages with that 3% raise. That also takes into consideration the overtime funding.
Mhm.
So. Chances are it's gonna come in even less than 65,842. That's the real number.
Okay.
Yeah, the numbers, yeah, looking at the. Roughly 7.5%. Yeah, the 66 works. You're looking at 2023, where it was a full year, and
Right.
7.522. Yeah, so. That should work.
Nice. Not much change in supplies, no change office, they're doing good, increase in collection supplies is needed. We were able to decrease some computer supplies, just small decreases here and
What
there.
what constitutes computer supplies?
Computer supplies, yeah. Computer supplies, can't talk tonight. Software, some software updates, technology related supply costs and projects, things, small things, you know. Cables, things like that, we put in the monitors, so, which were our friends, of the Friends contribution list this year, there were a few things that we had to get for that were related to that, so. Yeah, anything over 1,000, you'll see, I always keep that note there for you, anything over 1,000, I'm gonna put into equipment, and that's where it needs to go, so this is really just small items. Repairs and maintenance, I did bump up a little bit, might get closer to that this year than we did last year. Well, actually, we were over. Ideal Lab supplies, I was able to take that down a little bit. We were able to, that number, like 233, 31 will not be accurate. We're gonna be way closer. We're gonna probably use up almost that whole thing this year for Ideal Lab supplies. Because we were able to go in and get some more items and get more filament. In fact, I was just shown a 3D print that looks like it's made of metal, but it's not. It just looks like it, so.
Wow.
that's-
Does that include the tables or shelves or whatever we were gonna do on the glass wall? Between the mix?
No, that's gonna be, I'll get
Is
to
that
that
under
later.
facilities? or-
She's got it in here.
It's,
Oh,
that's
it is in
later.
here, it is in here, okay, because I remember we
That's later.
talked about it, I just.
Yeah,
I'm
we
sure
talked
we
about
did.
it.
It's coming, it's coming. No, this is the fun stuff, so. So that's that. Sanitizing supplies, I took that down just a little bit. We're able to get stuff for a pretty good price, so that's not. So that's. Overall's down a little bit than last year, so. On that. Okay, so let's take a look at services and charges. Okay, professional contracted services, I made a slight increase to this one. And that's because, so this has to do with the mobile app mainly. Now you've got your recurring fees. We do have our attorney fees, which I do like to keep in there, especially with policy reviews continuing. But this one, we're gonna have the mobile app out of this one. The way that happened is I thought it was gonna be for this year, and it could have been for this year, but they're so backed up and have so many new clients that we can't do it till January, and they don't bill until then. So I had to put it into this year. I will say going forward that, I mean, obviously subtract that implementation fee, but it's actually gonna be a little bit less. It's gonna be a little bit less than that in the future year, 2 years. We locked in at a nice low rate, and actually the rate that I came at you and asked you for the quote, I learned the very next day that it's actually gonna be less than that. They're gonna give us an even deeper discount, so. So that's just the rate increase for that, what that is. TLN seems to be hovering at, we're doing pretty well with that number, so I left that the same.
And you don't think there's gonna be any increase in from TLM?
Not that's going to affect the overall number here. No, I keep it a little bit padded
Okay.
just in case.
Okay.
Computer services. I was able to do a slight decrease in that one. Advertising and promotion. Okay, so this is another one that I would just draw your attention to as to the reason why it's higher. And as I think I've mentioned before, that our website provider is retiring. And so just in looking at some basic websites that were out there, the costs are ranging from 15 to 25. And so you'll see that's why that's there. Any questions? With that. Bank charges and fees. So as I mentioned to finance committee, I did confirm that, the Flag Star fees, which were set to expire, are set to expire at the end of this year, which it is, but as of September 16th, you'll see that, the fees, did confirm the fees will remain the same.
So is there another, because we signed a contract for that,
I'm assuming we'll work with Yvonne to.
to sign
That's
another
part of the reason
contract?
why I thought she was coming in that day, but it wound up not being that. It wound up being more other stuff, so.
No,
Oh, that
that
was
was
Chase.
that was a different one.
that was
Right.
just, yeah, no, we still have to get together. I think we just need to
Yes.
get a date.
Okay,
so we-
because I would assume since we signed that contract before, we would sign another one. Okay, thank you.
Chase also has a fee, however, like, as you know, we maintain an average, balance of 100,000 our combination with, linked business savings and our business CDs, they leave it. But that being said, I still built in a small increase just in case.
So it looks like we will probably go over the $1,000 this year on the bank fees.
1 second.
We're at 7:30.
We may.
We're at 7:34. It may get closed. I don't see too much
Oh,
of
I
a,
guess that's under 75% and we're 75%. Okay.
yeah.
It looked bigger to me then.
Well, and in 2023. But that was, actually, we didn't sign that though. Did we sign it? We didn't sign it in 2022. We signed it in 2023, right?
I'd have to double check
Yeah.
and see. Oh, we did sign in December of
2022. Okay, we
signed
did.
it. It's a
Okay,
two-year.
you're right. So this number really, this 2023 number, Rich, that 970,
That's gonna probably, yeah.
it should be about the same at the end of this year.
But that's why I did put it in a slight increase, because I just wanted to be a little bit on the safer side on that one. Okay, dues and subscriptions, you'll see basically what that is. I thought I would just grid it out, just.
Yeah, I thought this was really nice that you did. Thank
Helps me
you.
too, because then I can check it off as it comes in,
Mhm.
and if there are any increases, it helps me to track it, so.
This is really a small one, but what is net nanny?
Net nanny, did you explain net nanny?
In order to have children use the internet in the children's department without parental sitting with them, we get net nanny, and that allows us to see back to have them use it whenever they want. That's why the adult section, an adult has to sit with the 11 and under,
Okay,
because we would not be compliant with law, and that takes us compliant with law.
okay. Cause what in the world is that?
This one also, I put in here MLA staff memberships for 4 staff. Oftentimes we'll have, MLA will offer things, and if it's a little bit cheaper if you're a member, so it just helps to build that in right now.
Okay,
So that's why that's there. And of course, you have your MLA organizational board membership, which includes myself and you all, as an organization.
and SHRM,
Sure. HR. for the help.
Society for Human Resources.
okay, thank you.
That was something the previous director actually said to me. Stay with Sherman.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
It's a given.
Postage, we seem to be doing okay with that one. So. Even though there was a slight increase, it was able to build it in and seems to be doing okay. So.
I've been using stamps.com as for postage,
What do you think of that?
and I like it. It was a slight savings. But you also, it's, you print it on demand.
Mm,
There, if you have packages, it'll do packages,
Oh, nice.
it's all out of that.
That would be nice because normally we have to, it's a post office run.
Run, yeah. And
Have you tried to cancel it though?
no,
I had it.
oh,
I had to actually like call 3 different people to get it to cancel. So,
And why did you want to cancel it?
it wasn't getting full use of it. So,
Yeah, and I'm dealing with a, bigger school. Where,
Yeah, we were,
like mailing out, report cards instead of,
yeah, we were doing mailings of 200 to 300 a month. So,
Well, might be worth investigating.
Yeah.
Okay, where was I? All right, postage, telephone, no change. That's,
Does the T-Mobile come under that telephone? So we're not showing that we got the grant under grants. It'll just show up in how much.
Because it's really a net,
Joe will probably, when I saw if you look on
it's in here.
that, it does list it under the federal grants. He's gonna do something to show that. I'm not
Okay.
sure how that's gonna work or what it's gonna be, right? Because it's not really, but it is really, because
Yeah.
he's gonna have to track it coming off.
The
Right.
bill, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so, yeah, so basically, you're looking at, if the telephone right now. So there's gonna be two funds
if
actually.
it's being
so-
paid directly to T-Mobile,
Mhm.
then it isn't we don't have the income, we don't have the outflow,
Right.
but we
Right.
also need to track it.
Accounting, yeah.
Right.
Accounting wise, we
Track
need to track it.
So, yeah, so you'll see this come out of basically the 851 and also. $851 and 803 is where you'll see less, you'll see the savings.
Here's here's the. product financing.
Yeah, when I first looked at that, I had to look at it about 3 times. And
Yeah.
then did a
What's
little
going on
hand
here?
dance.
Yeah.
Because it was, dealing with ECF was not actually very clear, and so we thought we had got it a while ago, a long time ago. But we just didn't, we didn't see it. When's it gonna be there? When's it gonna be all of a sudden? There it is.
This also includes, the telephone also includes universal, the,
Unicom.
is it- okay, yeah.
It's, yeah, so that's the VoIP.
Mhm.
And then you've got your AT&T, which is the fire lines. It's time for me to give them a call and ask for something cheaper. Was that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'll see it on both of those, but I didn't feel the need to change it, and obviously now with the brand, it's. Yeah, let's change it.
There are other carriers for, copper lines
Like for the fire lines,
for the fire lines, yeah. I'm not necessarily sold, but
yeah, I've been thinking about that lately.
yeah,
My only hesitation is because it's gonna be a little bit of an extra cost to have them come out. And work with National Time and Signal. I may have to pay National Time and Signal to come out. I'm not sure how that might all work, but it might be worth investigating in the future.
yeah, when I switched over, I switched over, alarm, fire, elevator, to a third party. And it was, nobody had to come out and do anything.
But no one
Just,
just come out. But that needs to probably too.
yeah.
Okay, mileage reimbursement, current rate is 67 cents per mile. Professional development opportunities are just not as distant as last year. Obviously, we only have one this coming year that would be going out of state. So there wasn't anything to have it, we were able to decrease it by about $100. Electricity, so for 2023, we budgeted for an 18% increase from 2022, and for 2024, it looks like it will actually be an 11% increase from 2023. So for 2025, I'm suggesting around a 15% increase.
From the budget or the 24 budget or from the 24 actual?
From the 2024 budget.
Okay.
So even though we're only at 60% now, you think there's gonna be that much of a jump? And,
That's what I'm targeting.
okay,
Yeah.
it just seemed high to me, and I was just wondering.
I mean, because we're going into, it's gonna get cold.
So we spent 30,000, we budgeted for 30,000 in 2023 and we spent almost 30,000, right? And we're gonna see that increase over the next 3 months.
And what you're looking at here, again, this is September 14th number, so that's already gonna be higher right now, because we've already had another.
That's
so
8 months,
be
not 9
careful,
months,
yeah.
yeah.
Be careful of looking at that, because.
Yeah.
I
I just thought
As
the
close
heat
as I
would
can
be gas, and that
It is.
you were talking about it being higher over the next 3 months, but it's gonna be, we're not open any longer hours, so.
But you,
No,
less daylight, I mean, so if it's so bad, you're running your lights.
right.
That kind of thing, you
It's
know?
not at 10 in the morning. I don't know.
Yeah, I just want to be careful with it, like I said, with 2023, it was close.
Right, it was very
And
close.
so. I know percentage wise, it has gone up. I've read lots of articles, and so that's where I just want to be careful. Does it have to go up to 38? Doesn't have to go up to 38.
No, I was just
Um,
curious.
gas, actually, so we've seen a decrease,
Wow.
so.
Yeah, I don't know what rates for gas are gonna be, do you?
It seems like it's not.
But did it go down this last year or
Just
As of the
Rebecca,
same time period, so when I looked at all the bills and compared. Time to time,
Mhm.
it's actually down by $2,000 less than it was in 2023 at the same time point.
Hmm.
So,
well, the gas bill too show you,
year over year?
yeah.
right, it
that's
shows
where
you
see
year over
it.
year, it shows you what we're paying too, and, per, I don't remember, is it kilowatt or whatever, it's not kilowatt, cause that's electric, but whatever we're using. Yeah, right, what is it? CFU, is that what it is? Cubic? So you'd be able to see what we paid in 2023 for that CFU based on what we paid for 2024.
That's what I've done.
Okay.
And so that's
Okay.
what it looks like, and so that's why I took $300 off. It's just $300, so that might be a safe bet.
Yeah.
Okay, water, the ever strange water bill. So far, despite the township having meters, again, on our low flow and high compound water, the cost has been less as of September. But I am so cautionary on this because we have not gotten that, it's any day now, I'm gonna get that bill, which is July to October.
That's the big bill of the year.
That's, so, while I did decrease it, we'll see, we'll see. We'll see.
I haven't heard anything that says that rates were going down from the township.
Yeah. So we'll see how this all pans out. It's kind of strange to me, but. I don't know. Sewer has gone up. They've increased by 2%.
Okay,
So in 2024, it went up 5.5%. So I decided to add another 5.5%.
okay.
I don't know what the deal is with that. Repairs and maintenance services, so. Fees in this account are running 5% higher, obviously inflation, going into 2025. And again, we also need to budget for a 5-year internal pipe inspection and hydrostatic test. I've got an estimate on that of just over 5,000.
Is that every 5 year?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Rentals and lease equipment, no change. Property insurance, I did do a slight decrease on that. You can see why. Last year's cost being just over 12,000, which was a drop from the year before. And we do receive a refund on this one. The refund varies from year to year. You can see it kind of has been increasing, but has been as low as, at least since 2022, is it can be on the lower side, but even without the refund, I thought a decrease was coming. Trainings and conferences, again, we only have one national one and some state and local conferences, training opportunities, so it was fine to take it down a little bit. Programming, as I consulted my managers on this, and they are the ones that have said they don't need a change. And I have to say that this is because of the Friends support, so large shout out to them because of their help. That's another way that they help our budget. So that's a huge thing. I did not need to have any changes for adult, young adult, or children's programming because of that.
So where does, so we have in the income, the Friends. Yeah, donation,
Where does it go out?
and yeah, where's the out?
980.
Okay,
Now get to that.
okay, so,
Yeah, I will get to it. Okay, so that tidies up services and charges. Before I start capital outlay, because I know one of the things that I was gonna foresee on this, because I know that we like to make sure that we're spending more money on capital outlay than we have to spend on some of the majority of services and charges. The total on capital outlay for this year, I have at 352.5, and I want you to be careful about comparing that to the years before. Because the years before are inflated with funding. So as an example, the amount for last year, 3,947, is an inflated amount of 133,000. So you would have to subtract 133,000 off of that 3,947 to get the true number of what was spent on.
so 980 is under capital outlay. And so a lot of like the donation, the Friends donation is not a capital item, or like they're funding programs, that's not a capital outlay. How do we?
So. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, so I think, excuse me, Rich. I'm sorry. I was,
Go ahead.
because the gift fund purchases is listed under capital outlay. But we're talking about the Friends actually funding expense services and charges. Right? Adult, young adult, children programming.
I mean, they do a lot of different things. That covers a lot of different funds. The gift fund purchases fund was just something that was here, and that is my understanding is how that's historically used, is how when
Okay.
things come through that we need to purchase, that's the Friends have asked and said, yes, purchase that, and that's how it comes out.
So they
That's
would,
how it's expensed.
so it used to be that they would buy like cabinets or, things that are,
Extras.
yeah, capital, but also,
Right.
were, capital, physical things, and they, will continue to do that, but they're also, very generously donating in the programming, which is not a capital, so it's not gonna be amortized or over time, because it's a, an expense that just goes, that just happens. There, so that's, it's really more of an accounting concern than there, but just to make that it flows right from the budget perspective, that to the accounting, that we could get like advice on, wait a minute, you were getting donations that we're going to use for services. You know, that seems like that part of it shouldn't be
In the capital.
a
outlay.
capital outlay.
So, and I think that's, yeah, and to answer that, one of the things that we're doing, and I'm working with Joe on is I have individual, spreadsheets that everything that's purchased from 980
Mhm.
is individually accounted for, and it shows what fund it would be coming out of. So that Joe can track all of that
Mhm.
for those types of auditing purposes. Is that kind of what you're?
Yeah, I'm
referring to,
thinking of
or-
it, I'm thinking of it from and maybe in the audit, some of the changes that they're, because they, change it for to match government specs rather than
And it perhaps is something I can talk with the auditor about to say, this is what it is, and is it something that we should be. Maybe if we get in the future, if we can work to get the Friends contribution list a little bit more. Specific before budget, we can have it go into each individual. Like it go concert series, say, could go into adult programming. That might be another way of handling it. Is that kind of what you're
yeah,
thinking?
yeah, just, I mean, so
future?
that
Mhm.
we're doing it in a way that it's traceable, it matches up, so it's auditable. And it has a clear tracking.
Right, because we don't really see that here, and then if, so say something happens, that's, terrible, and we don't have a friends group anymore, and we don't have this kind of income,
Mhm.
right? So even though these are saying all the services, the programs are staying the same, really, we're really depending on the friends to help subsidize those programs.
Mhm.
So then where would, and then how do you record that so that
Right.
so that we know what the true expense for those programs are?
And to, I mean, you can budget it. 60% is here and 40% here, and, get it in the ballpark. And then, then you're a little bit off maybe at the end, but you're not 60% off.
Yeah, so I'm with Rich. I'm sort of curious on how, audit wise and accounting wise, that should really be reflected.
It hasn't seemed to come up in the past, and this has been used. In looking at past budgets, it's been used that way, for a while, so.
Well, in terms of funding programs, Jen, do you remember? I mean, I remember that they bought things,
Yeah.
it's like in the old building. Even when we started here, but I think the funding programs, I think has just been the last year or two.
I can answer that one,
Yeah.
because it would get charged to this is why it kind of ended up here, is they would pay for it, but it would get charged to whatever the account was,
Mhm.
juvenile programming, and juvenile programming would be in a negative $1,000. Because it came out of that account and had just been run into the gift fund
Yeah,
and hadn't been transferred internally to whoever the account was at that time.
Yeah.
So technically, book budget, like we would get a memorial for $500, I'd be in the negative $500. Children's programming would be in the negative $1,000 because it came out of that budget
yeah.
line,
Okay.
but it wasn't moved over from there, even though it was taken from there. So that's why that fund would be.
So you had a,
It started being used that way, and
Mhm.
April having the sub sheets is. But so that we weren't technically being negative balances because we were buying stuff that was given to the library.
Yeah,
for
so
specific purposes.
you want it to be easily just to ourselves. It's like, what are we doing? Oh, yeah, here's a clear path to that. And
And I think, yeah, and I think that's, I like that, and I think I'm gonna talk to the auditor, I'm gonna show the auditor what we did for 2024 in regards to all those individual little.
Yeah, be interesting to see what they
sheets, kinda
say.
say, what about this?
Yeah.
Right,
Is
Right.
this right now, I'd say it's convenient. Because you get things, you have one, things come in, you just say, okay, yep, 980, we're good. And then, like I said, I put it in all these little individual spreadsheets,
and we probably as a board should see what's coming out of 980 on a continual basis.
Yeah. Happy to do that.
I'm curious to, is Rich's, what the auditors would say,
I am too.
you know, because we want to make sure that we're doing it right and at the end of 2024, right?
Well,
Going into
and if a
2025.
new board came in, all of a sudden everybody was new. You want to be able to understand exactly what they're looking
Right.
at.
Right,
And right
Yeah.
now, right now, if you were looking at this with fresh eyes, I don't think you could.
Mhm.
Not on those, like on the programming. It looks like
Agree.
you spent $5,000 on programming. And we know we spent more than that.
Yeah,
Technically.
yeah, and that's really sort of my
Right.
point too, is
Yeah.
what's the real cost,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so how much are we being subsidized, and that, and really understanding that 980, you know, on a continual basis, what's being drawn from that,
Sure.
I think would be really helpful for the board.
Yeah.
Well, and not that it's gonna happen, but if the Friends group suddenly dissolved or
Right,
stopped funding it, we'd need to know sort of where we need to replace it.
right, for sure,
Or even if something happened with the Friends group and they weren't able to raise the
Yeah,
kind
that
of money.
kind of
they
money,
could
right,
raise
yeah.
currently,
Right.
because they're pretty successful at this
well,
point.
yeah, at the
Right.
moment, and yeah, that's, but they certainly have had years where they have not, you know, and it.
I mean, they've done an outstanding job, but,
Phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
outside of any other, you know, friends group that we
Yeah.
know, right? So we're really, really fortunate, but we don't know what the future.
I'll bring it to finance committee next week.
Yeah.
Give you a show.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing it up, Rich.
Okay, so, right, so just capital outlay, overdrive, increased overdrive. And. let's get to that. Okay, overdrive, so for 2025, we're moving 1,200 from adult AV and 1,000 from JYA AV to add new content. Overdrive's obviously, you're aware, it's always being requested. And this, again, this fund, just to remind you, includes all content, including digital magazines. So it's pure content. Hoopla, we're increasing.
Say that again, it's all
It's
content.
all content. So in the past, fees were in this account.
Okay,
I didn't
Okay.
like that fees.
I
were in
remember
this
that.
account. So those were moved last year to TLM.
And I'd ask somewhat the same question here, is this capital? Is Hoopla and Overdrive, do we have, are they assets?
You're asking the biggest tax audit question that keeps getting asked every single year.
Yeah,
Last I understand it is that they've stepped back and said that, yeah, you're fine, you're good. It's,
even though we don't really own it,
right.
Yeah, it's a license.
'Cause they
it's a
were-
license.
we own a license.
Yeah, it's,
Okay,
Well, and licenses are considered capital outlay.
Right. Even though they are revocable capital
Right.
outlay.
But they are considered capital outlay. I don't know how I don't know how in government entity it is, but I know
Yeah.
in the private sector, they're considered that.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, Amazon can wipe your Kindle, but it's still a capital outlay.
yeah.
So I'm gonna bring this up again, because I don't, and this is my ignorance. We have Overdrive and we have Hoopla. I know that many of the libraries in the area also have Canopy. And I know, Amy, you've explained it to me, and you're gonna have to explain again why we don't use Canopy.
Because we would, one, it's also under the overdrive umbrella, so we're waiting to see where that falls out, and adding a third. Third provider for other content, because Hoopla and Overdrive already. Sometimes just, even in theory. A new geography book, a paper goes in places a whole, not in just two places, now a third place until they can get it. We're sometimes paying for the third thing, and it does dilute what we can spread it into two places. Canopy's. look,
I just know
Canopy's
some
another-
other local libraries have both Hoopla and Canopy.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, and I actually have, you know, I've said this before, as my son has lived in Ohio, for the last few years. I've used Canopy with him a lot, and I'm amazed at the, amount of, materials that you can get through Canopy that you can't get through Hoopla.
Also, Canopy is a standalone, each library is an individual, it's not a pooled asset, so whatever we put in.
Okay,
is all
thank
we
you.
get.
Okay,
So it would
Thank
have to
you.
be, it's a pay per use, so whatever, Hoopla's already hitting. Maximum use of we can get, would be the same thing.
are we looking at increasing, well, slightly? Just $1,000 on Hoopla, because you've said that a lot over this last year, that we're hitting that max on Hoopla every
One of
month.
the problems is, when I do talk to parents, they're placing the hold in overdrive, going, checking it out in Hoopla, not canceling their hold in overdrive, so they're double dipping to get what they want, which is great, they're getting what they want. But it's adding a third thing would add in also, kind of.
And they're looking at, Canopy is looking at possibly, migrating in with Overdrive, is
They're
it?
under the overdrive and umbrella. and I
Okay.
can't say anything else.
Okay, thank you.
Is Libby there also?
Libby's Overdrive,
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
yes. Mhm. So what other online resources?
So our other online resources are primarily databases, so you'll see there, you've got Brain Fuse,
Okay,
your Tumble Books, Consumer
Consumer
Reports,
Report,
which is huge. Pronunciator, the foreign language, Niche Academy, your learning.
all of which I
and-
use.
And Beanstack, which is allows us to do our summer reading program as well as our winter reading program. And our 1,000 books and our other books, 100 books before. Keep them reading, so yeah,
Just check.
Beanstack is fantastic.
And so we're gonna
Great
continue with
place.
all of those programs.
Great place
okay.
for what we.
Okay,
We used to have a number of other databases that were more. Can't think of any names.
If they are now offered on Mel, then there was no need to continue
could be.
paying for them.
Yeah, they're just kind of like looking up. Random facts type of. And the web is better at that than it used to be too, but. There, so yeah, so the list is, but there was 500 for this, 500 for that, there was a, just a whole slew of those things.
And what I like about this is I've left in a little bit of room just in case something new comes out that we want to kind of look at. Okay, books. So adult books, we're giving an increase to, a little bit of inflation on print books. So. 55 to 60. Book senior, this fund increases again, the inflation and moving $1,000 from periodicals to increase our large print. Young adult, last year was a good fit, so no change on that. And no change on children's, that was a good amount as well. Periodicals, there's that decrease there.
25,
So
2,500.
funds- Yeah, funds being moved to large print and Hoopla. Unfortunately, print periodicals continue to cease production.
And without much notice. I
And
mean,
without much notice.
right.
I've had 2 subscriptions that are like, this is the last one.
Mhm.
You could have another 6 months of our sister publication.
Or they say, we're just sending you this instead.
Yeah.
Right, I've had that happen.
So, exactly.
Okay,
Okay, AV, so $1,200 decrease, excuse me, from adult to overdrive. Young adult was happy with theirs, so that was a good fit for them. Children's moving 1,000 to overdrive. Grant expenditures, So decreasing that one, this year we received $300 state grant, but as I said before, most other grants or sponsorships were locally sourced. There's that gift fund purchase that we talked about.
You said you wanted to see more sponsorships. Would those come under this fund?
Yeah, that's exactly. So that right now would go into public donations. And then it would be expended out.
Close out.
Right, and it's
Okay.
tracked under what I just told you.
Okay.
So like I've tracked the vibe, I've tracked, you know. So for the steam kits and such. Okay, so furniture and fixtures. I would still like to consider adding, there's that counter space to the Idea Lab. The usage of this room is increasing. You can see the laser engraver is now out. That's exactly right where I would want to put the counter. And because I would like to have as much equipment out as possible, so people know what we have. That being said, that is a decrease, and that's just really, it's not technically, it's almost like a new number, really, because there were specific things in 1982 last year that were part of fund balance. Equipment, this is just a small amount for just in case issues or a new idea. Again, that 43,000 was fund balance and was for specified things from last year. And lastly, building and improvements, our digital sign needs an upgrade. In fact, it definitely needs an upgrade because this week we lost another square on the opposite side. We were able to reboot it and get it going again, but it's gonna be dying soon. And it's a minimum of $300, it's not under warranty anymore. And it's a minimum of $300 just for them to come out here and stuff on our property. It doesn't include replacing the square, which is gonna be extra bright. And so done. Anyway, so just in looking at a few preliminary quotes, they come in between 26 and 35. I did put it at high. I went high in there, but that's only because the way, as I said, when I got down to these last three funds and I was looking at things, I thought, you know what, that's fine. We can always do a budget amendment, say if the counter came in higher, that we could, and we knew that the digital sign was actually what I'm saying it's probably going to be, then we could move that. So there's a little bit of flexibility.
Okay,
Okay, that's it.
Are these tiles and squares, they're not broken, damaged like from a stone, but they are running out because they've been used for so much?
That's my guess.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a broken stone or anything like that.
It's not a broken tile.
Right,
So it's not
just-
functioning.
Right.
So 5 years from now, we'll have a similar expense.
Like to say not, but you're probably right.
No, I mean,
The technology seems to move so fast.
For sure.
So,
Planned
When we
obsolescence.
invested the
Yeah.
first time, it was like top of the line, you couldn't get any finer definition, and now it's, not.
Barely adequate.
So, yeah.
yeah, but think about if you had a 5-year-old computer.
well, and hopefully actually the expense is great.
Yeah.
Right, just like, everything else in the
Like, it'll come
digital,
down.
it will come down. We'll see. Is it going to be the same footprint?
it's gonna go right, and it should
Like
be
the
right
same
in that
cabinet.
cabinet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Maybe, I don't know if there's gonna be any, I mean, obviously don't quote me, but what I've seen from the two is it will fit right in.
We
I haven't seen anything about moving bricks or anything like that. Yeah, no,
oh, yeah, because that's obviously another expense, right?
we don't want that. I like what it is right now.
Yes,
I
it's
just
ve-
want it to fit.
I mean, there are times that if it's, depending on, like when we move to the darker background, I can actually see it from 59. Which is really phenomenal, so,
I do wonder how it's going to affect if they wanna put in theirs, they wanna put in one, they're gonna, because there has to be a certain amount of distance between them, you can't have.
Or they will make it
Well,
that
it
their
can't be
position.
too far, it can't be too much because like, the school just put in that big one and they took out some of the smaller ones. But the smaller ones were really pretty close, like where here in Valley, where Lakeland's was compared to where the IA was, it was not very far.
No. not at
There's
all.
all, if you go look at the rules, I mean, the rules we had to read to put that sign, we had to get a dispensation on it. Cause it wasn't far enough from
The road,
the road or the parking area, or there was something, I
Yeah,
had to go to the.
it's like 2-3 pages.
I had to
It's
go
a
to,
bit,
I had to go to their committee and present it and why we needed the offset and all this other stuff. It was, I don't think there was enough room from the sign to the parking lot or something. I mean, it was a big deal. And I had to go. to-
So our-
So there's all kinds.
so
of
this change in
rules.
the road is not gonna affect our sign.
I've heard that. it won't. So, yeah,
I mean,
I've never said anything about that.
but there's a very,
I would assume if we're
very
in, we're
strict-
grandfathered in.
there's a very
Okay.
strict
I
policy
know that
based
we
on what your
can't.
parcel land is. Like, we were parceled as farmland or something.
Oh, yes.
Agriculture, yeah.
And so.
Cause that's how we had the problem with the drive-through window.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the distance to the road, you can't, there's certain things you can and can't do. You
Mhm.
can't, like there's certain flashing you can't do,
you
it
can't
can't,
flash.
right,
You
you can't flash.
run it across.
Can't
Yeah.
aggravate, yeah.
It can't go move too fast, it
Yeah,
has
it has to hold
have
for
so
a certain
many
amount of
seconds to
time.
hold, yeah, it's,
Okay.
oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
all exciting stuff.
Mhm. Overall, I'm gonna say this again, you've done a phenomenal job on the budget.
It means a lot.
So we're
I can
voting-
tell you've put a lot of
Are we
work
voting
into
on
it.
the budget tonight, or are we gonna
I'm sorry?
vote, are we voting?
That is entirely up to you all.
Are we not?
It's entirely up to you all.
So what are the items that we talked about being? You know, with the,
The only one I would not, well, but that's a longer term issue that brings my budget, but.
And-
the only
and it-
thing in the.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just gonna move forward with 50,000 on the interest. I think that was the major thing. We talked briefly about salaries and percentages and.
yeah,
And the finance committee spent a lot of time with April, working on this really for the last,
Well, since
oh,
August.
yeah, I was gonna say, I think before that.
Recession.
I mean,
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
my first session was in August, I was tied up the end of July.
Right, but we've really, April had it. A lot, I mean, we've really talked about it and talked about it.
Mhm. I agree.
And many things we've said, could you come back and provide this and provide this? So I'm really comfortable with it, Rich,
Yeah.
you asked some great questions today.
yeah,
And so did you, Eric. so
they
I
aren't
appreciate it.
necessarily things that need to. It might mean some like accounting changes
Mhm.
versus a budget change, and maybe that line moves in the budget, but that wouldn't materially change the budget there.
Well, I'm good with approving the budget as is, but you guys are the two that are new to it. The three of us have been looking at it, so.
Yeah, I am as well. The one suggestion I've got, it's not related to the budget numbers or anything else, but in the final column where you've got the decrease and the increase. If we could have a percentage the next time, it would be easy to calculate, and just pull it over. Because for me, like scanning it to see which things have the largest percentages differences, it'd be really useful, because there's some that are orders of magnitude bigger than the $50 one, or, and I know that that's.
And when you say percentage, do you want that based off of
I mean, in a.
last year's budget
Yeah,
or the actual? as to the
Probably
date?
last year's budget number, because it would be, you're comparing budget number to budget number, right?
Yeah.
And if it shouldn't be, it's just a formula you could do the percentage decrease or increase with conditionals on it, but then also the dollar amount, so you could compare and say, okay, well, that one's a 14% increase, but we're talking about $40.
Yeah,
So one of the
Would
things,
you wanna see that in the paper that went this way?
Ideally in this.
yeah, I like that, but
Ideally. And that way you could scan it and go, okay,
insert it between,
there's a 12% here, and
Right.
that amounts to
So-
$14,000 versus,
so like where you have this, where it says increase in green, you could put that increase, that actual dollar amount in green and the percentage in
Sure.
green, right? And no,
Well, the dollar amounts are in her
right next to it.
explanations. the other piece of
No,
paper.
but this says increase, so then you have to go, okay, well, it's increased by this is 861. Okay, so you have to go do the math and say
No,
it
you don't
increased by.
Do the math, it's in her thing that's right by.
It's in the budget
budget.
narrative.
It's in the
Okay,
narrative.
but it would be really nice if it was on this,
Okay.
is my point.
And I can
Yeah,
do that.
because you can scan it.
Yeah.
But you would see, I mean, you know, this is
I'm just saying that
10%
it's not that she didn't
more.
give the information to him,
Yeah.
she gave it
Right.
to us in a different.
Yeah.
place.
Eric and I are just
So
asking
just
that
be
it's,
clear where you
that-
want it.
that-
It's already-
All I'm saying is that if I go like this, can you tell me which is the biggest budget increase by looking at it? You can't now,
no,
Yeah.
but you could if you had that number on it.
Yeah,
It's easier for me to do. I'll just do 2 columns. I like
Yeah.
it in two
Yeah.
extra.
I
little
know. I
columns on
just
the
wanted
end.
to make sure she was writing down where to put it in
Yeah.
the right spot,
Got it.
yeah, yeah.
okay?
Thank
we
you.
just look, under notes, Eric and I are just looking for a little more dollar and percent explanation rather than decrease and increase.
I think it'd be easier to make it 2 new columns there.
Yes,
Yeah, for sure.
and,
For me, it'll make it easier to have it 2 new columns.
Sure,
because since it's
absolutely.
mathematical
Otherwise,
equations,
Yeah.
otherwise you have to
Oh,
make,
So now,
you have to make the column.
April, you'll just
hide
have to
it.
make sure that.
Right,
Copy it over.
right.
I'm dealing with this today too, with this,
Right.
my own work is that if you put it in 2 columns and you can concatenate the 2, and you've made an error in 1.
And your budget
Error-
narrative's great.
The error
Yeah.
perpetuates itself.
It's very nice. Because we've not had
Yes.
that before. And it,
No,
and
it helps a lot, that's why I read them
Right.
together, that's why I wasn't missing the number.
I'm not missing, no,
And
but
understand
I
that
would
you
love
wanna
to see it
see
on here.
whatever's-
Sure, because when I open this and I look at this,
Uh-huh.
I just want to look at this.
And when I open it up to read it, I would like to know, it bring me a glass of water.
Okay,
Too.
I'm
Well,
gonna
if we're
tell
putting
you,
that on our wish list.
P and L, this is what, it's what we're asking for is just a given.
I'm saying
Yeah.
that we can keep.
Sparkling
adding
or
stuff.
tap.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the
To approve the budget.
budget as presented.
For
And I-
2025.
And I will
2025.
second it for twenty
As the
twenty-five.
treasurer, you can.
I think I can second it as a treasurer.
Yeah.
One second. And now we all have sympathy for Karen. Okay, go ahead. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's 4 yes votes. And we
Great
need
job, April.
Yes,
Great
very
job.
nicely done.
Yeah.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah,
I'm
the na-
doing it. I really do.
The narrative really helps.
It does.
It tells the story.
It does.
Well, it's solid presentation, but overall.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Very thorough, incredibly thorough.
My own, you know, and we've approved it. I just have one comment that, so this interfund transfer, you know, the fund balance. It's gonna be nothing, there's no proposal, but we still have that money. You know, so I'm like,
We talked to the auditor and we answer. Are you talking about making an amendment, whether we need to make the amendment or not to move that money? Is that what you're talking about?
okay, but we don't have, but it's really not gonna be recorded here anywhere in our revenue and our expenses.
You're talking about 24.
I'm talking about going forward in 2025, because it doesn't look like it exists.
Say all that one more time.
What you're going to take in and what you're gonna spend. It's not a balance sheet. So the
It's
balance sheet
true,
will show
true.
the
I just want to
fund
make sure the balance sheet continues to show it.
You mean because we're not doing anything
Yeah.
this year? Oh, absolutely. No, I'm not getting rid of, we're not, no, that will stay there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next year for
Okay.
2026. Is that what you mean?
Yes,
Okay,
2025,
yes.
and, okay,
Cause the.
you're right, because it's not a
account
balance
will
sheet.
say, Yeah.
Okay, now does someone want to just,
Motion to adjourn.
there you go.
Second.
It is
Second,
8:25 PM.